now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
So someone comes up to you and they say, hey, FYI, and you say, what? And then you're, FYI, and they say, for your information, and you say, okay, well, and then someone tells you a story and they give you information. And you listen to that when someone says FYI, okay? So folks, what am I trying to tell you? Great things are happening here at Samson Productions, SSP TV, and the Hazleton Standard Speaker. And you're going to learn all about it. This is breaking news, something that's, again, innovative in the United States, working with a major newspaper while also having news, local television news, since 1994. So today, folks, I'm going to tell you how great it's going to be and what you're going to be getting starting very soon here on Channel 13 and also in the Hazleton Standard Speaker. My guest today is the operation manager, no stranger to the area, John Patton. My daughter, Jeannine, who is the executive vice president, but also hosts the many shows here on SSP TV and spearheading this entire move. And Mark Katchur, who is the managing editor of the Hazleton Standard Speaker. Let me take you back in history a little bit, folks. If you remember, back in 1994, I worked 2 years to develop local television programming. And the idea was to bring local news to you, information that you don't get with the regional stations, and rightly so. So you need to know what's happening in your backyard, what's happening in your cities, what's happening in your townships, what's happening in the boroughs in these areas. Now that we've expanded our viewership from St. Clair, Pennsylvania, right up to Mountaintop, there's a lot of communities here that are contributing, have a lot of things happening, but yet we cannot give you all of that information. So starting very soon, we are going to revamp our news, and it's going to be FYI News 13, okay, brought to you by SSP TV and the Hazleton Standard Speaker. What does that mean? Well, I have the Standard Speaker in front of me today. I do not know probably 90% of what's happening in the community other than what I'm reading here in the Standard Speaker. We could provide you headlines, but the idea is, do you know what's going on in your backyard? My daughter asked me a question about 2 weeks ago. She said, who's the mayor of Freeland? And I thought a little bit, and then who is the supervisors of who's the mayor of Tamaqua? What's happening in Monterey City? What's going on in Shenandoah? What's happening in Frackville? What's happening in Hometown? What's happening in Cunningham? What's happening in Sugarloaf? What's happening in all these different areas? And I said, geez, I'm really at a loss. And we're having local television news. So we developed a media partnership with the Standard Speaker. One of the few things that are happening in the country today. Let me give you another little history message, folks. Do you know, if you Google this, this is all factual information, if you Google broadcast television viewing, okay, that's all your broadcast television viewing, is decreasing every year by 3 to 4%. Network cable viewing, you know, your internet, your CNNs, etc., they're decreasing every year in viewership because a lot of people are going to social media. However, what's increasing in viewership throughout the country is hyper-local television, such as we're doing. So with that being said, this is going to be a great opportunity. And John, you know, we started this back in 2008, correct? And how did this begin to work as far as the way the paper saw it?
Well, I think from our standpoint, what we were looking to do is, I mean, we had joined the Time Shamrock family in 2007, and you know, we were looking obviously to do a lot of the things that you're talking about is the hyper-local stuff. So what we did is when you guys and our guys got together, we said we can provide that information to people two ways: one through the daily newspaper, and two over your airwaves. And I think what happened was that's kind of been the impetus for where we are now. I mean, we certainly have a wide-ranging group of people who cover northeastern Pennsylvania. The Times Tribune in Scranton, the Citizens Voice in Wilkes-Barre, the Pottsville Republican in Pottsville, joined with the Standard Speaker. We provide all that local information in the counties that we serve. In the Hazleton area, obviously, we were looking to do something a little bit more intense. And I think what we did was, when we partnered with SSP TV, we've got that inroads. So the stuff that you could provide to us, we could provide to you. It was a marriage that really worked for the people in the area. the information that we could garner that would be in our paper was supplemented by the stuff that SSP TV was doing, and really has been a service for the people in the community. Now with the social media, the websites that we have, all that information is available immediately. And so if there's breaking news, it's on our website. You guys are breaking it on your show. So I think from that standpoint is we've really gone the extra mile to provide that information for the people that we serve.
In addition to that, John, we were able to do a lot of things. We did the clothing drive, okay, the coat drive, and we did the food drive. And we're going to be working hopefully on a blood drive, okay? So the opportunity is helping the community out and doing what's happening in the community. I think that's where and thank God we have the viewership that we have. What this move would be, and Mark and Jeannine will explain a lot more about what's actually going to be happening, is fabulous in terms of bringing local information, which they cannot get. The regional stations cannot give you all the different townships. I mean, the only time you hear about it is if someone shot somebody or if there's a drug bust, etc. All the good news. But there's a lot of great news that we have in the area, and I think this is a great opportunity for us now.
Oh, I think it is, and I think if you look at, you pick up our paper any day, I mean, you see a lot of the community stuff that's going on, and we try and do that as a service to the people. But you're right, we serve a wide area, but we do a good job of getting down to the hyper-local portion of it, which you're right. I mean, we don't see in some of the larger stations. We're able to get that to our people.
Jeannine, I think this whole thing evolved when you started doing the community show. Explain to the viewers what that community show was and what it meant, and thank the good Lord, the tremendous response you're getting from that.
Well, FYI, we listen to our viewers and the people on the streets that I get to work with every day, the business community and all the nonprofits that Mark and I get to work with. And I really wanted to do something, we're fortunate enough to be exposed to all these viewers. I wanted to do something that focused on what is positive and what is going on in the community. So that led to Community NEPA. And me and Tom Novotny and Tim and Sam Jr. have really been working on the show where it focuses on nonprofits working together with how they impact this community and how important business working together with these nonprofits really can make a difference. And the outpour from the business community has been great. The show has been sold out since the first month, and we're on our fourth month of taping new shows. So there is a need out there for more community involvement, and I feel that we can provide that through FYI. I'm going to be having a section called In Your Community with Jeannine, where I'm welcoming any nonprofit or anyone that has anything going on in their community that they could come on, and for 3 minutes they can expose what their message is to our viewers and also the viewers in the Hazleton Standard Speaker.
When you did the community show, and I hear it all the time, first of all, when I saw the first community show, which is interesting, I learned a lot. Mm-hmm. I didn't know how much involved certain people in this area did, and I really learned a lot from that show. And as I'm looking at it, we're learning. So the community giving the headlines or the information out, primarily the way we structured, we're structuring the new things, the viewers will be getting much more information than they're getting now. Am I correct?
Well, it's important, that we want to have the breaking news, the crime, and the stories that unfortunately we need to report on together as a team. But it is also important to reach out and let people know what is going on in their community as far as are there meetings to attend that you want to know in your little town of Cunningham or Sugarloaf or McAdoo or Tamaqua or Weatherly or Mountaintop, wherever it may be, Beaver Meadows, you have that. In today's paper, we listed all of the contestants for the Miss Greater Hazleton Scholarship Program. That is something that we can now highlight, bring those girls on and show them. The Pearl Award is coming up this weekend. I'm going to be having the winners on for people to meet their neighbor, meet the people that are being highlighted for doing great things in this community. We now are going to have a platform where we're making the time to highlight the people that are giving back and doing so much to progress the city of Hazleton, the city of McAdoo, the city of Tamaqua, really all the cities in northeastern Pennsylvania.
And Mark, from your standpoint as a managing editor of the Hazleton Standard Speaker, how do you see this
Sure. The partnership is nice in the fact that 13 has the resources that we may not have, but the newspaper also has resources that the TV station might have. So to cross over that line, I think is a positive one. It offers us opportunities that, again, otherwise we wouldn't have. From our vantage point, it's nice to reach a different audience that we may not reach on a daily basis. We could do that through the TV show. Obviously, we have a different audience online, and then our traditional readers who read the newspaper. And then from your standpoint, from 13's standpoint, you're getting the promotion and the exposure. People are seeing that we have this partnership and we're trying to build it in benefit of the people of the Greater Hazleton area.
What I've seen is when we do the headlines in our news now, which it'll be more expanded. Okay, we find that some people who do not get the paper decide, well, you know what, I didn't know about that, and now they're picking the paper up to read what the stories are. Folks, if you just tuned in, we are raising the bar tremendously in local hyper news and information. We're taking our name and making it FYI News 13, brought to you by SSP TV and the Hazleton Standard Speaker. We come back, we'll talk about, as Jeannine said, you can now become involved here. When you have any kind of activity or anything you're doing in the community, you now could come on as newsmakers and explain what's going on. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Remember, 24/7, ssptv.com. Get all of the shows that we do here, produce here. My email is sam@ssptv.com. The show today, folks, is an informational show for you in the community. I hope you will be as excited about it as we are at the Hazleton Standard Speaker and at SSP TV. We're revising our news in the near future, and it's going to be called FYI News 13. Brought to you by SSP TV and the Hazleton Standard Speaker. And we're going to have Mark Katchur, who is the managing editor, editor of the Standard Speaker, of how the mechanics work. But John, when you're talking about, here again, bringing information, okay, you had the cooking show, right?
Yeah.
And there was an example of how the partnership worked very well.
Oh, absolutely. And we had the cooking show, which now will be an annual event because it went over so well. But we had it up at the Wiltsey Center, and it was the first year. We'd gotten the information out, and what happened was we talked to you guys about putting a little contest together. And people, and I know for the fact that people called in to try and win tickets, and you were overwhelmed here. I mean, and that was exactly what we were looking for. What that did was then spill over into people who were interested in the cooking show, who may not have seen it in the paper, now coming to the paper. And we picked up some readers out of that. I mean, we picked up some people who really wanted to be involved in this type of stuff, and they realized the value of the paper, maybe through some of the stuff that we were doing. And that's the way it's supposed to work. I mean, we cross-promote each other for the people who don't get one of our products, and hopefully we can turn those people who don't get one of them to getting both of them.
How will the mechanics work now between SSP TV, FYI News 13, and the Hazleton Standard Speaker, Mark?
Sure. On a daily basis, we are glad to provide any information to SSP TV that is necessary for you folks to get the news out there to your audience. As John said, we have resources in Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, many resources in Hazleton and Pottsville. So we cover all of northeastern Pennsylvania, really like no one else can. We're really fortunate here to be able to tap into those resources on a daily basis. We have reporters not only in those cities, but we have a reporter in Harrisburg who reports daily on issues in the state capitol, and we share that information with our readers on a daily basis. So again, just the way that we're able to report the news now is just on a greater level than what it used to be. So in terms of the mechanics, on a daily basis, we'll be in touch with SSP TV. You folks are free to use anything that we provide to our readers. And we'll be looking for ways to take that to another level. There will be times when maybe I'm on the show to talk about local news. maybe try to provide some analysis in terms of the news. You may see other folks from the newspaper on there from time to time. So we're really looking to forge a partnership that goes in both directions, basically.
You know, the exciting thing about this is I know that if something happens in the town, our phones are running, your phones are, hey, what's happening at here? What's going on in Broad Street? What happened down the valley? And they're calling for information now because, you know, someone's passing, someone will see 25 cops or they'll see an accident, et cetera, and they'll call us or call you, all right? Now, the fact that we have this information, okay, we will have FYI breaking news, okay? If something's important, we'll have Ken Kara talking about just breaking in on our programming and saying this was happening. Go to the Standard Speaker website, go to your, you know, to find out more about it, because if it comes from the Standard Speaker or if it comes from both of us will have that information. And that's why I said we'll have much more information going. I'm sure you get those calls all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we really make an effort to present news on our website and through social media and through text and email alerts now. More than ever, really. We understand that people do want their news now, and we've started an initiative called News Now, where we break news on our website. Sometimes it's breaking news, like you say, an unfortunate car crash or a house fire. But other times it's sometimes just the routine news that we cover on a daily basis, and the effort, the idea is to give the reader that information now. Certainly they can read about it the next day in the newspaper as well, but the next day in the paper they might find something additional. Right. Yes. They'll see other photos, yes. They might see a sidebar to the main story, which gives a little bit more analysis on this certain topic. So we're reporting news in a lot of different areas, and this partnership, the new effort, will just give us one more avenue to do that.
I think you're going to see a consistency of the news is happening now. So, you know, people want their news when they want their news. Throughout the day, news changes. So you are going to have access to social media. You're going to have access to the internet, TV, and print through SSP TV and the Hazleton Standard Speaker. And as the community's needs change, of course, we as media and local media need to change. We are bringing on a team of local professionals here at SSP TV. They're from the area, they care about the area, they live in these communities, and you know, all know them, they're familiar faces, and they'll be joining us at the start of the new month, April. But it's really exciting. We're staying local and really providing this area with where I think there's a gap and a need to fill as in community, and that's where our focus should be.
You know, John, it's interesting because sometimes they'll say, well, if we're giving like a road report or something, an accident, what do we care what happened in Cunningham or Sugarloaf or Monterey City or Tamaqua? Well, the people there care about it, okay? Sure. And that's the, you know, like, you know, you're involved with Marion High School and you're involved with a lot of organizations. Well, these people need, so we hope to get all of that information in headline form.
Sure, and again, we started a couple of months ago. We started an all access program at the paper. So if you're a print subscriber, you have access to our websites, you know, through your tablet or through your iPhone or through your computer. So we encourage people to go in. It's you know, it's an all-encompassing subscription for us. So if you're a print subscriber, go on, log in. There's an all access. You can log in, and then, you know, if you're at work or if you're on the road or if you're out of town, you still have access to all the information that we have and all the information that SSP TV has as well.
And I would like to interject and say, FYI, if you have any ideas for the new format of FYI News 13 SSP TV and the Hazleton Standard Speaker, you could certainly Facebook me at Jeannine SSP TV. You can check out our websites. And please offer, because again, this is interactive. Yes. This is about the community's involvement. We're going to have weather. We're going to have a full sports block. Yep. There's a lot more to this show than just news.
One of the things, folks, you know, the obituaries, you know, we do mention the obituaries, but we cannot give you the full details, okay? I mean, so we'll tell you who passed on or whatever, but in the Standard Speaker, for example, today is 248, about 10, we'll mention them, but you got to go to the paper to find out where, what's happening, the family members, etc. And we'll be doing a little bit different on obituaries. You'll get a little bit more information. For example, if Mrs. So-and-so died, we'll put the maiden name in, so we know who that person is. So there's a lot of people that don't know maybe the marriage name, but the maiden name, and that was brought to me, that was a suggestion made to me at a local restaurant. A lady came up and says, I see who died, and I picked the paper up, and I'll have all the different information. That's only part and parcel of the many things we'll be giving you. We're going to have one more break. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back, folks, to the Sam Lesante Show. Folks, as I said to you, hyper-local television news is increasing across the country. We are now getting much better with our news. We're revamping it to FYI News 13, brought to you by SSP TV and the Hazleton Standard Speaker. Today I have John Patton, who's operation manager, my daughter Jeannine, who is spearheading this entire move, and Mark Katchur, who is the managing editor for the Standard Speaker. Just so you know, folks, on our website, we are averaging right now, according to notarized surveys, anywhere from 50 to 65,000 people watching our news every Monday to Friday, and we're getting over 5,000 to 6,000 of you watching our news, okay? Which leads me into people who maybe live here, move, or people who move from this area want to know what's going on. Mark, give me an example of what's happening, for example, with your obits.
Sure. Just to follow up on your point about the obituaries, Sam, folks who leave the area, maybe temporarily or permanently, can still access the obituaries section of our website remotely, whether it's on their desktop or on their tablet or their other mobile device. So that they can still stay in touch with their hometown to see who unfortunately passed on or who's making headlines back home. So that's one point that I wanted to reinforce. Recently, we had a week of news that was pretty unprecedented in our history. We had a major drug bust here, and we reported that on our website the day that it was happening and as it was happening. So people on the street saw that there were police officers and other law enforcement agents out there in the community. Almost immediately, we had the news on our website explaining to them what was happening. This was the final effort of the AG's street crime unit task force that was hitting the street.
And that's a classic example of what I'm saying. When they were hitting the streets, okay, we would go on and say, breaking news, FYI, breaking news, turn to the Standard Speaker website, because we could only just announce what's going on. So if they're watching our programming, we'll be able to bring them to the Standard Speaker. And that's what's the whole thing. And Jeannine, in the FYI News 13, we're going to be able to show our other shows, correct?
Right, so FYI is a production of Samsung Productions, and working with the Hazleton Standard Speaker, when people say, hey, when's the girls on? Well, guess what? You're going to be able to know through our print ads when the girls ad is on, when the girls show is on. And then inside FYI, we might have a segment where we're talking about, what's the latest on the girls show, what guests we're having on, or, there's going to be new surprises, some other segments I'm working on that I know people are very interested in. Again, it was based off of your response and some things that people have asked. So it's going to be fun. I'm really excited.
You know what I love, John? My wife and I'll be watching, and this is, believe me, I'm not being sarcastic by no means, but I have to say this. We'll be watching other programs, okay, and say, well, boy, thank God they have us. Because if they didn't have us, they wouldn't have any creative ideas, okay? Most of the programs that I'm looking at are duplications of what we do, which is a great form of flattery. And I'm not being sarcastic, and if you're going to imitate anybody, thanks, take our ideas. But, and that's, I think, a testimonial of how, successful our local programming is. I'm excited about, continuing and upgrading our partnership, John, because, when you put an ad in the Standard Speaker, you're going to get results. When you put an ad on, and listen, we're in the business of selling ads. Like we wouldn't be here today. I'm not going to kid anybody, but how could you put you get an ad in the Standard Speaker, and Paul has been great with his prices. You put an ad on SSP TV or any of our programming, getting visibility to promote business. I think I'm excited about this.
Oh, I am too. I think that certainly this opens the door for a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about doing.
You brought a good point up. When we have our headlines for the day, people could go out and they could buy that paper that day because it's in the paper, correct?
Sure, absolutely, and I think that's one of the things that we're gonna look to do. Is obviously when we had done it in the past, we would tell you coming in tomorrow's standard speaker. But a lot of the stuff that you're going to be able to do when you're programming is stuff that was in the paper today, because some people may not have gotten it. We believe that this will allow people to know what's going on and pick up the paper that day, but also know what's coming in the next day's paper.
Well,
yeah, not just with the headlines, but with all of the other specifics. Maybe your son. I know when my son was in the paper, of course, I wanted a copy of the paper. I wanted to keep it, and for him and show him off. And when my daughter was in, I wanted to show her off. So that's important. As long as crime is important too, but hyper local and community events are so much important
community.
as well.
But folks, let me tell you something, okay? I want you to understand one thing. Mark Katchur, Jeannine, John Patton, Sam Lesante, or all the people who are reporters, etc., we do not make the news. We report the news. And sometimes people read something in the paper and they get upset or they get offended, or they'll listen to our news and they'll say, how could Lesante have that on his news, etc. Unfortunately, Mark, we do not make the news. Correct. We have to report the news. And sometimes it breaks my heart when I have to read in the paper about someone we knew or something happens. But if we do our job, we need to report it. I mean, I'm sure you hear that all the time.
Yeah, we do. And the way that journalism is sometimes it's very uplifting, and other times it's depressing, because as we all have in our lives, we have good news, we have bad news, and we have to report both, like you said.
Well, we're going to give them both. We're going to give you folks. So great things happening here. The Standard Speaker will have the official date when we're going to announce this official opening of FYI News 13, brought to you by SSP TV and the Hazleton Standard Speaker. It's great. You're going to become involved. We want your input. You have anything happening with your organizations, you now have every opportunity to do that, and we'll be doing it throughout the day. So remember, if you want to go to breaking news, the Standard Speaker website or ssptv.com will be going back and forth showing you what's happening and keeping you informed immediately. Thanks for staying with us on the Sam Lesante Show, and we appreciate all the nice comments you've had and also those constructive ones. We'll see you next time.